we are here with Chef Robert Hale. We are at the Beef Loving Texans here at the Texas Beef Council. So, Robert, thanks for
Yes,
sitting down with me.
absolutely. Thanks for having me. Welcome to our home here at the Texas Beef Council, and we're happy to have you. And looking forward to the conversation this morning.
Thank
So,
you.
absolutely.
So, tell me, when somebody walks up to you and says, "What do you do?" What do you tell them?
Well, um, first I have two daughters, so I'm a dad, girl. So I love my family, love my girls, a beautiful wife. But what I do on a daily basis is I educate other professional chefs on how to cook beef, and educate them on beef, everything from pricing to menuing to different techniques, different cooking styles, obviously different cuts, and talk a lot about pricing. That's for sure with these chefs. So yeah, so on a daily basis, that's pretty much it, and it's all the way from post-secondary culinary students all the way up to retired chefs that are still out there doing their thing.
I
So
love that you led with family.
yeah, absolutely.
And family makes me think of these family ranches that are
Yeah,
providing the beef that we get to
absolutely,
enjoy. What
absolutely.
is the biggest challenge that you think family ranches are facing right now?
Sure. So 130,000 cattle producers in the state of Texas. So right, so a lot of cattle out there, lots of families, generations from generations doing this cattle producing. The average herd size is only 40, head of cattle. So we got a lot of people out there doing a lot of ranching, from hobby ranching all the way up to doing it for a full time position. So obviously drought, weather, we can't control the weather. So that's a huge factor for our ranchers out there. And all of that goes into what happens at the end with pricing and all those things that go into it. But really, the things that are uncontrollable, you can't control them, so there's nothing you can do about them. But how do you mitigate that? How do you make sure you're doing is what you can for the animals, for the land, and they do what they can with our help, right? With the Beef Council help of different programs we have, from our trainings and our BQA and all kinds of different education that we have, for ranchers. I think it really helps them out to know we're here for a resource, for them.
So, what is the most popular thing that you're teaching the restaurants when
Yeah.
you're coming in, you're talking about beef, you're talking about the ranchers. What are you teaching
Yeah.
people on the restaurant front?
Sure. Well, we're definitely blessed in being able to take chefs, to take F&B directors, take those folks actually out to see, our producers, right, in our industry. So it's been really great since I've been here for almost 10 years to be able to have those programs where we actually take them. We have a program where we go up to West Texas A&M University up in Canyon. And so we'll take chefs up there. They'll spend a day and a half in the classroom with meat scientists. I mean, how cool is that, right? We get chefs out of the kitchen. They get to go to spend some time with meat scientists, ruminant nutritionists, and those things. So it's super cool for them. They love it. We're able to then take them out to ranches and meet some of the producers, see their operations, take them to a feedlot so they can see the kitchen out there, right, out in the field, and see what we feed the animals and why we feed the animals, and why the nutrition, what they have. It's not just kind of something they do willy nilly, right? There's a formula for everything that they eat, why they eat it. And then we actually go to the harvest facility so they get to go see the harvest. And so we're really proud to be able to take them out to show them our industry. I think it's important. We talk a lot, you hear a lot of those buzzwords out there, eat local, and we want to know where our food comes from and all those kinds of things. So as chefs, we get asked those questions a lot. So we need to make sure that they have the answers to the questions. And so very blessed to do that. We also have an online program called The Raw Truth About Beef that actually takes them through this same process, but it's in an online, very visual form. They can go on, they can take some tests and questions that are on there throughout these modules, and then become beef certified at the end. So another great program, The Raw Truth About Beef. If we can't get them actually on a ranch, they can still see it. So those are a lot of the things. And if once they come back from those trips, or if they haven't been able to be on those, trips, a lot a lot of education goes with the right cut with the right cooking method, right? So we need to make sure that that they're educated and they know, can we sous vide something? Can we braise something? Can we grill something? Can we, what does that look like, and how are they doing that? And if they're having troubles with a cut, that's usually where I start. Are you cooking it the right way? So sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So
You're talking to restaurant owners and people in the food business about beef. And what is the biggest, so you're preparing them to answer questions,
absolutely,
on their side.
absolutely.
So what is the biggest misconception about beef?
On the culinary side, there's some hesitation sometimes to actually explore a little bit with beef, right? It's very easy to market a ribeye, and we love our ribeyes and we love that. But, how do we get beyond that a little bit, right? And how do we explore, different cuts, and sometimes it can be expensive. And so there's a little barrier sometimes that they're not comfortable with. Am I going to screw this up? Especially a young chef, young culinary, and young cook. I don't want to screw this up because, there were some costs involved in it. But if you can get past that, let's do it right. But you're going to make mistakes, right? And luckily the product is pretty darn good. So if you do make a mistake, it's probably going to still be pretty edible and still good. But a lot of it is just that. In terms of menuing, there's a lot of beef is king on the menus in Texas, and that's great, and the margins are really good for it, right? But there is a little bit more of a higher cost on that, right? So where do you get menuing is important, and where's the sweet spots and those kinds of things. So I think restaurateurs don't struggle, but they're always looking, right? They're always looking for that, right? And they're always looking to, yes, we have the ribeye on, we have the strip steak on, but I need something else, and I'm kind of afraid to experiment a little bit with this. So sometimes it's good I'm able to go in and work with them and experiment on the side where they're not, they're a little more comfortable once they put it on their menu. So yeah.
Well, it's one thing to tell them to experiment, but then they still got to be able to sell it.
Sure, absolutely.
So, as a consumer, what am I missing out on?
Sure.
When I get radar locked on just the things that I always
the filet
mignon. It's pretty much all we buy because
sure.
we know how to cook it. We don't
sure,
ruin
absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
But what else? What am I missing?
So you're not missing anything with the filet. You're doing great there. There's nothing wrong with the filet for sure. I think what I like to talk about with the filet is how am I going to enhance that and make it taste even better, right? So I need to add a little flavor to that. So I need a sauce, right? I need a topping. I need something that's going to go with that to enhance the flavor, of that. So I like to say you got to chef it up a little bit, right? So how do you chef it up? But there's also so many other great cuts out there that are going to be, flavorful, juicy, tender, at a reasonable price, right? You can have a great eating experience with a choice cut, like a choice strip steak. Doesn't always have to be prime. Prime is great, and we love that. But choice is kind of that sweet spot, and can we have a great eating experience with a choice steak is absolutely perfect. One thing I would say that the average consumer, and even the average consumer that goes out to a restaurant, again, we get zeroed in on what we like, and that's fine. How do we as restaurateurs, how do we as chefs, how do we as front of the house, which is crazy important to the restaurant, how are we able to explain something on the menu, right? How are we able to sell something on the menu without selling you, on that, right? Yeah. So the good chefs and the good restaurateurs, right? You come in and you're a regular and you order filet every time. Well, next time you come in, you're going to get the filet, but here's going to come something else you're going to try, right? And so I may send out, beef cheeks, right? Braised beef cheek, and that's going to come out to you in a sample, right? And hopefully next time you come in, I know I don't want to lose you as a customer, but now I'm going to give you a little something to try to entice you to come back. And I think that's key. We're in the hospitality industry. At the end of the day, we're inviting folks into our homes to cook, right? The restaurant, the hotel, those are our homes. And so we want you to come in. We want you to have a smile on your face. We want you to forget about what just outside the door. We want you to come in and just have a great eating experience. And if we can if we can change your mind a little bit about, what you're ordering, especially if it's a cut that you're, familiar with, to get something different. I think that's our job to be able to do that. And most are pretty good at it. So,
All right.
yeah.
So speaking of experiences, you're out and about all the time. What is the craziest experience you've had while you're out on the road for
avoiding those deers somewhere?
That's
No,
a
I'm just
challenge.
kidding. Right? I think especially in the either going to an event, cooking in a field is always interesting. As I've progressed in my career, I always tell either the event organizer or the chefs that are working, I'm starting to get a little bit too old for this cooking in the middle of a field thing. So, so that's always fun, and it's challenging, right? And it's challenging. Where's the power coming from? Where's the heat coming from? Where are we getting all this stuff? And what I find a lot is when you go to some of these events or industry type things that no one kind of, if you're not in the world, right, and you're not in the culinary, and you don't think about where the dirty dishes going, where's this going to go? How are we going to clean this up? Where's this going to, those challenges happen all the time. And to be honest, that actually makes it kind of fun to a point. But yeah, I think just going out, meeting a ton of new people. It's all about relationships. Again, in the hospitality industry, it's really great. I have had some situations where I've been in where you come and you say, hey, I'll come help you, or I'll come do this. And then you end up on the line for 4 or 5 hours, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, why am I here doing this on the line here? But it's great to get in and jump in and help. I think that's where you gain the trust of other folks, and especially ones that you may not know a whole lot, right? If you can jump in and, if you can, jump in the dish room and start doing some dishes and those kinds of things. But there's a lot of stuff that happens, and I think we do a good job as restaurateurs and chefs and hospitality of the guest is the most important, the experience that's happening out there. But I think if the guest knew what was happening, in the back, it's always an interesting control chaos that's happening usually back there. So
takes a lot to make it happen.
It does. It does. A whole lot's going on back there, and a lot of people coming together to do it, right?
Yeah.
And as an ex-athlete, a football player, I think I get a lot out of that. Actually, I think it is a team. There's a lot of camaraderie in the back of the house and the front of the house, and bringing those folks into it too. And everybody has a position, everybody has a job, everybody's doing it, and you have to trust that they know what they're doing, and they're going to execute it. Because of one thing. Once spoke goes off in the wheel, you got to be ready to jump in and have a teaching moment and those kinds of things. But it's really important to be able to trust that it's going to get done, because you're doing something else, and once it leaves the pass and the plates are clean and it goes out, you got to trust that it's actually getting to where it has to go to. So so I say those would be the challenging. Other than Texas is a really big state, and it takes a lot to get around the state of Texas. Being a New Yorker originally, everything was 20 minutes away. And so in Texas, when things can just be, it's over there, and it's 8 hours away. So that's always, you have to look at your map before you head out, for sure.
Miles and miles of Texas.
Absolutely. A lot of beautiful countryside, that's for sure.
So you've traveled a lot in Texas.
Yeah.
What is the best travel experience you've ever had, and with food in particular, outside of Texas?
Oh, well, we're going outside of Texas.
We're going outside of Texas. Just
okay.
For fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, lots of great experiences here at the Beef Council that we've been able to, take chefs in some of our programs. So we've done a lot of programs out at the Culinary Institute of America in Napa. So we take folks out there to Copia out there, their training center at the Culinary Institute of America in Napa. And we've spent 4 or 5 days out there, and we cook and we develop recipes. We may visit a few wineries that are partners. So great eating experiences, there. Again, getting chefs out of their comfort zone, getting them out of their restaurants, their 100-mile circle that they're used to kind of being in, and getting them out and, exposing them to different cultures, different cuisines. We've had a team at the James Beard House in New York City a few years back that we went up there with 7 other chefs or 6 other Texas chefs and did 120-day dry age steaks at the James Beard House. So great experience there in New York City. Getting a few of the chefs that had never been to the city and getting them in the city, getting all the equipment in and out and all the logistics that happen. We're used to rolling up in our pickup trucks and going somewhere, right? It's a little different in the city of getting things. So some great experiences there. We've done the Daytona 500 and the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300, where we've actually taken chefs there, cook for the media members. Great time there. Great to meet so many people that are outside of our sphere and our culinary world, right? And got to work a lot with the race car drivers and those, and then we got to cook for the Thunderbirds, the flyover team,
Awesome.
which was an honor and a privilege to be able to cook for those folks, and to really have them have an awesome steak dinner after they flew, not before. So there's a lot of questions about, well, I'm not going to be able to get my uniform anymore, and they're all like rail skinny and strong, and it's a very impressive group of folks. So that was an honor. And all these kind of events that we do, beef brought them to the table, right? So the Beef Council and Beef Loving Texans, we brought them to the table to have these experiences and have these conversations. So when they come back to their restaurants and they come back to their stadiums, their facilities that they come back to, they're able to be evangelists, for the cattle industry and for the beef industry. They're able to train their folks that they have that, hey, this is what you're going to aspire to, right? You're part of this community now, and you're part of this beef loving chefs community that we have here at the Texas Beef Council. And those relationships are just huge with those key folks that are making menu decisions. How do we give them those key experiences where they're able to share that in once in a lifetime type opportunities for them. So, we've had some great meals, from the French Laundry, in Yountville with Chef Keller, to awesome restaurants in New York City, but none of those restaurants compare to what we have here in Texas. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you mentioned cooking for race teams. Have you gotten to cook for an F1 race team? Because I happen to know.
I know. Yeah, huge F1 fan. I'm working on that. Hopefully. We did have I had to inquire a couple years ago to go out there and help a chef that was out there doing it, but I was tied up and wasn't able to go do it. But yes, hopefully, I would love to do that. There's been some great documentaries on some chefs that have actually done some F1 cooking and those kinds of things, for teams. So fascinating. You're really on the nutritionals, right? That they have to have. Making sure they have the right calories and they have the right things, I think is fascinating. But also that they're, skinny little guys and they eat a lot of food, right? And so because they're out there, burning, so much in a car in the heat. So someday.
People would be surprised at how many calories they burn. I got a tiny glimpse behind the scenes at an FR Americas race.
Okay, sure.
Out at Circuit of the Americas. And got to talk to the chef that was there. But they had every single meal planned out for these skinny little go get 'em racers.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's always an interesting. I do a lot of lectures and stuff for post-secondary, right, at the Culinary Institute of America or Dallas College or St. Philip's in San Antonio, and when I go in to talk to those students, we want them all to be culinarians, and we need every single one of them to stay in the industry, right? And so we had this conversation, and I want them to be chefs. I want them to open up a restaurant. I want them to invite me in, and they better have steak on their menus and all those things. But if they don't, there's a place for them in the hospitality industry, right? And there's so many different avenues, from marketing to advertising to the dishwasher, the dishwashing machine, all the stuff that goes into opening a restaurant and a hotel and those kinds of things. There's a place for them in our industry. And I think looking outside the box of, well, I just don't want to be in a kitchen, cooking in a restaurant all the time. Okay, fine. We have something for you, right? Go to a stadium and cook, right? And do that, and all their wonderful food service that they're doing for the suites and the private parties and all the stuff that, you know, happens in those stadiums, at a racetrack, for a race team, for a cycling team. I mean, there's so many avenues, you know, private chefing. There's all those things that, you know, you don't have to be in a restaurant in a daily grind if you don't want to be. I recommend you start there because you need that experience, but there's a place for them in this industry.
How have those opportunities changed over the last 10 to 20 years? Because we see so much growth and change and opportunity, but yet on some levels kind of scary challenges
Yeah.
with developments in technology.
Yeah, sure.
Just so much change in our society.
Sure. And I think labor is always going to be, you know, one of the top challenges, you know, that we have, whether, you know, we can afford it or we just don't have enough of it. So that's always a challenge. And especially over the last 10 or 15 years, the restaurant industry has just exploded with, you know, so many more, you know, small boutique individual, you know, than we had before in the past. And so that's happened, but also so has, you know, we need folks in these big stadiums and the convention centers and, you know, those kinds of places, to where there was more traditional chefs in there maybe, right? And so what we call the tall hat community, you know, we were in there more, so we're bringing more folks into that because we need more culinarians to be involved in that world. So I think that's been a challenge. You know, how do we keep people, pay people, and treat them well, and keep them in our industry, knowing that they're an asset, you know, for us. You know, we have to. The days of, you know, French chef screaming at people in the back of the house has changed. We can't do that anymore. And we realized that maybe not 15 years ago, but, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, right? We realized that, hey, we have to treat people the right way. We need people in the industry. We have to give them the tools, the training, and we have to make the back of the house a welcoming place and front of the house. We can't be back there, you know, screaming and yelling at folks. Not saying it doesn't happen sometimes, but we have to be respectful, and we have to understand that, you know, to lose somebody out the door costs us so much more money having to train somebody new to take that position, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think I would say that that's a challenge. Technology, you know, for all the greatness, you know, of technology, there's challenges, right? So takeaway, right? Especially during COVID, those kinds of things. We're great that pushed us to that level, right? I mean, we always had kind of carry out, but you would never see carry out in a fine dining tablecloth, you know, white tablecloth restaurant. Well, we had to do it to survive, and it's continued. And how do you make sure that you're having that same eating experience that you're having when you come in? Obviously, we can't have that hospitality. We can't greet you. We can't, you know, give you a hug. We can't smile at you. We can't, you know, take care of you like you're in our home. But how do we extend that, you know, to your home? And I think that's the challenge, you know. Where do we lose that in between? We're nourishing you, we're feeding you. Hopefully you're having a good eating experience. Hopefully the person picked it up and brought it right to you, right? So that's a challenge. But in the beef industry, and specifically, you know, how do we make sure that steak is arriving to you, you know, hot, warm, you know, medium rare, like you wanted it, you know, containers, all those things that kind of go into it, being environmentally friendly with all those containers and bags that are going out. You know, all that stuff is kind of, you know, in there, and it's been great for our industry. It's made it a lot easier, you know, honest, to have an ordering system through our POS that you're able just to go online and order, you know, the food, and someone comes and picks it up. But I think there's challenging there. There's challenging, you know, we have lots of great, you know, folks out there from the Texas Restaurant Association and the, you know, that are fighting, you know, for us to make sure regulations and those things are in the restaurateurs' favor. And so I think supporting those and getting involved in organizations is super important. From the Texas Chefs Association, again, to the TRA, you know, be involved, have a voice. You know, it's easy to sit back and just complain about it, but make sure you have a voice, and get involved. So.
How can, you know, some of the takeaways on, you were talking about how you wanted people to still have a good dining experience, even if they ended up with takeout.
Sure.
during COVID. But in general, if I'm at home, even if I get something delivered or if I'm cooking at home, what advice do you have for people just for elevating that experience at home? Because it's too easy to open a container, sit down on the
Sure.
couch, and turn on the TV. So, how do we?
Well, first you're going to go to beeflovingtexans.com because we have a million recipes on there that you're going to be able to see and to experiment with, and easy recipes, not crazy complicated. You don't have to start with the hardest one.
I got to say, your chili recipe is.
See, there you go. Lots of chili recipes there. So go on, again, beeflovingtexans.com, and give you all kinds of recipes on there. So yeah, I think, again, experimenting, I think, is huge for sure. Especially, during the fall months and the winter months, right, where you can braise something and you can have it, cooked, and you can have it ready, throw it in a crock pot, have it ready when you come home. So a little bit of advance, thinking. In the restaurant business, we don't, menus are written. We don't come in usually that morning and decide what we're going to do, right? It's pretty much we're ahead of schedule, right? So how do you get ahead, and how do you do that with a busy family? It's always a challenge for sure. I say don't get over your skis too fast, too early, right? So again, those braised dishes, having small fillets where you can grill, quickly. They're not going to take a long time. Maybe a flat iron. Those kinds of cuts that are going to be easy for you to do. Everybody in the family is going to love them, enjoy it. You could store them, you could freeze it, you could pop it back out. So yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. Start easy, start slow. Get good recipes. Go to a place that's going to give you some good stuff. Seeing stuff on social media and everything's great, Pinterest and everywhere else where you can see it. But just go to beeflovingtexas.com and get it there. Why mess around anywhere else?
So when you're developing recipes, where do you start? How do you come up with these?
It's cookery, right? It's making sure that we're right cut, right cooking method. And so, yeah, just kind of flavors, right? And we've gotten so much, the world's gotten smaller, right? And the internet and everything has helped us with that, right? So, back in the day, I won't say when I was a kid, but, Asian cooking, knew very little right about that, right? But now, shoot, I can be in Korea, no problem, right now, and looking up all kinds of different recipes and what that looks like, right? And I think we are more experimental, especially the younger generation. I know my 13-year-old, she'll eat anything, and because she sees it on Pinterest, or she, obviously her father's a chef, so it's a little different for her, but but her generation, that generation coming up is, I think, going to be, culinary wise, they're looking for flavors, right? They're looking for those kinds of things, and different cuts, different flavors, different eating experiences. So yeah, I think just start easy, start slow. Don't waste a lot of food. That's always hard. Don't make a bunch of stuff and then go out 3 times, right? But just let us do it. Just come out to the restaurant. We'll do the cooking. We'll do the cooking.
Is there any other advice you have for people at home, or anything I haven't asked you that I should have?
I don't think so. Again, technology's helped, and even in the equipment market, technology's come a long way. From fancy ovens that got a lot of BTUs and can really boil water pretty fast. All the way to, amazing grills outside and smokers, right? I mean, we do a smoke lab class here at the Texas Beef Council that we bring people in and teach them how to smoke, and have a smoking 101 class. And, the consumer wants to know that. They want to know how to do those kinds of things, and advance their skills and do that. So the one thing that I would say is we buy all this fancy equipment. We have all these smokers, these grills, these fancy sous vides, and these fancy Instapots and those kinds of things. And then we go out and we buy the worst knives ever. We go buy the cheapest knife that we can, right? So I would highly, highly, highly recommend invest in a good knife, okay? Whether it's a knife block or a knife set, keep them sharp, right? Keep them clean. Do not put them in the dishwasher. and have a great knife. It's so important. It makes life so much easier, so much easier. If you get a chance to take knife skills class, take a knife skills class, right? If you're not comfortable with a knife. But yeah, always have a good knife, always have it sharp. I think you'll find life's a lot easier cooking. So
That's awesome.
yeah, gotta have. And you sharpen a knife. I always ask the question, especially with culinary students, right? When do you sharpen a knife? You sharpen a knife when you're done using it before it goes back into your bag, so that when you take it back out, you can go right into ready to go, right? So we sharpen it, we put it back in our knife block, and then we pull it out and we're ready to go with it. So,
well, tell everybody where to find you.
Yes, right here at the Texas Beef Council. So go to beeflovingtexans.com. Again, you're going to find all kinds of amazing recipes there. You're going to find all kinds of awesome videos that we've done from our BarbeQuest television series that we did. You're also going to find a list of our folks that are here on staff, from our registered dietitians to people that work with consumers and those kinds of things. And so we are here. We're accessible if you need us. Culinarians, chefs, if you need me, you can find me. Most of you already have my information, but if you need it, you can find me there. You can find me out on the road. You can find me as part of the Texas Chefs Association if you're involved, and at events. But we want you to be part of the Beef Loving Chefs community that we have. We have about 2,000 chefs right here in the state of Texas that are kind of part of this group. And we love for additional culinarians and chefs to be part of it. And you are now an honorary member of the Beef Loving Chefs community. So lots of great gear that we have, t-shirts and hats and those kinds of things to make sure that you can represent as a Beef Loving Chefs community member and get that education and be part of that group. And something that we're really prideful, and I know our cattle producers out there are very prideful to know that we have this chef group out there working on their behalf in the restaurants and facilities. So we're proud to continue to grow that segment. And get a sharp knife. Don't be afraid to experiment a little bit, right? Right cut, right cooking method, finish with the right temperature. It's always medium rare or start over. That's what we say. Right? All right. What do you think?
Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go look up some new recipes.
All right, cool. Awesome.